On February 26th, a user by the name DMLF1 posted the following over on the MMORPG subreddit. Does anyone else hate the concept of dailies? Why should I be punished for missing a day or 2 days? Why can't I just play when I want to play without feeling like I'm missing out on something every single day that I don't? And why, of all things that you should usually do in MMOs, do dailies seemingly consist of the most boring possible activities? And so guys, that's what I wanted to bring you as a discussion topic for today. Do you hate the concept of dailies, and or do you love the concept of dailies? What game ultimately does it best? Now, there's an interesting reply, and I want to highlight that because I'm going to share some thoughts who and what I think it does it well, where I think it could be improved overall, my relationship with dailies as a longtime MMO veteran. But obviously this is just my thoughts, and as always, I'd love to know yours below. So, Large Mob of Murderers, wonderful name by the way, also replies, says, dailies strike me as a cheap way to get players to make a game their habit. They are depending on players to keep playing their game, not based off the fun they're having, but on the FOMO, the fear of missing out, for those who don't know what that acronym means. All the worse is that the daily is some annoying task that nobody should do willingly, and if you weren't for just the reward. Now, I'm currently playing Albion, and its dailies are surprisingly well thought out. Most actions in the game give you challenge points, and these points fill a bar that give you daily and weekly rewards, meaning that your daily can be whatever activities you enjoy, as long as you're playing the game. And so, guys, I want to bring this, like I said, to you. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian, if you're new here to the channel. I like discussing MMORPGs, I like making guides, and sometimes I cover the news. I'm a longtime veteran of MMOs. Mainly Final Fantasy 11 and 14 have been what I spend the most time in, and my relationship with dailies has been formed based off of Final Fantasy 14 as a primary source for this. Now, I have a lot of respect for how 14 actually handles its dailies, because for me, and as they are introduced, they're not like always in the game. They tend to actually tell a story about a certain part of the world, which gets me more invested. Now, I obviously am a story guy when it comes to Final Fantasy 14. I've always just enjoyed the story, been playing it for 13 years. Jeez Louise, it's going to be 14 years next year. Oh, time, how you fly. But as I make a pondering second just to reflect on that, I've always appreciated how 14 handles it, because they are something that also can expire. You can use them for other things, and so there is a value driven into 14's economy of the daily itself. But when it comes down to it, it's not something that like I feel like I don't end up burning out. Like, I feel like I can complete the daily in terms of logging in, getting the reward, having that interaction, finishing it, and then deciding if I want to use it for other things or not. Now, Albion's actually sounds like the most interesting system, because generally speaking, the old MMO veteran in me actually sides with the fact that I think dailies are rubbish. Like, at the core concept, they're all about that daily metric, getting you to log back in. And we've seen bad things happen. I know Chris talked about how he actually quit World of Warcraft. And if you guys don't know, Chris is a guy I share, one of my buds, worked a game as a channel with, so we talk about stuff over there all the time. But Chris talked about when they uncapped dailies, making them unlimited, it ended up just feeling like in World of Warcraft that was just too much, and he ended up quitting. What I see tend to be used is dailies end up being kind of a cheap daily user metric thing that gets pushed into games just to keep that retention up, and eventually burns people out. It literally has a lifespan of either you will finish this or it will finish you. I tend to obviously like side on the anti-daily side, namely because of the concept of what people call them, chores. A daily ends up being this set of chores that you have to do in order to do the thing that you want to do. And that fear of missing out does tend to drive me away as somebody who doesn't have all the time in the world to play games. Now, dailies then can also be the positive side of uplifting, that when you get in, you do these things that kind of helps catch you back up to speed. So I think within the genre itself, we haven't seen the most, I guess, fully fleshed out like implementation of it. Now, in this case, like Large Mob of Murderers points out, regarding Albion, that actually does sound refreshing, because the goal should be that as long as you're doing something that you want to do, if that contributes overall to a reward, I think all the better. But it ends up still like the player in me feeling like if I have to log in or I'm missing out, that I think that's something that works until it doesn't. I've seen that poison the well, if you will. I always kind of think about it like in real world terms, right? I don't play games to earn, like we've heard that concept brought into play. And while I'm still quote unquote not earning like real world money out of these MMOs, I still like equate it to real life. Like I have to go to work. I have to take out the garbage. I have to mow the yard. There's things that I have to do. And I do that out of the love of my heart and my family and take care of them. And then I play games, and I play games with the kids, or play games with Julie, or, I play games with the community. And that ends up being something that is separate. And when a game starts to feel like a job, that's where I personally get concerned with my relationship with said game. Because I think naturally, like games with their addictive nature in terms of like you get dopamine within an online game, you can have a social aspect, just like, a whole friends group can be tied up into it. And then essentially kind of then all of a sudden having all these various requirements stack up on you. It really like can impact you depending on where you are in life. If I literally had nothing to do for a couple of weeks, you wouldn't hear me complain once about dailies because I'm actively in. It's not impacting me. But it's as soon as I'm unable to do those various things, does that pressure build? And it's built for me in Destiny. I've felt it a little bit in Final Fantasy XIV, not so much, but I'm going to return to the subject once we get a feel for their battle pass system that they're bringing in with patch 6.1 and the PvP system. So note that I hopefully won't be a rant. Just kind of keep it locked here. You'll find out one way or the other. But then essentially when I look at things like New World, it has very light in terms of that relationship, and it feels so much more relaxing and so much more enjoyable when logging in. And so I resist game like that idea in that game, even though we know that dailies work. There's proven metrics in terms of player engagement that works, and engagement can end up leading to that habit, which can lead to being a spender, being somebody who is generating more money for the game. And I always just kind of look at that as a farm. I feel like, like I said, I'm obviously biased for Final Fantasy XIV, so please just take that note. If you're not a fan of 14, my inherent bias to that game. But note that I always have that respect, that I feel like Yoshi P has a good balance. He's like, these are things that we know that work, but how do we make sure that they don't, overexert the community, feeling like you can't take breaks from the game, because that's a part of his mantra. With some rare exceptions, 14, I think, delivers on that. I think housing the system there could definitely be worked on, because outside of that, there's the concept that you want to make sure you're at least logging in and touching your house, otherwise it might go away. And those are the hardest things to come by in the game to date. We're going to see if that overall gets improved. Now, I'm trying not to ramble on that subject because I just want to keep this focus to the concept of the daily, your relationship with it, what you would like to see, who does it best, and who kind of like, what lessons can we learn, and ideally just, hopefully get some really good ideas to help provide feedback to the developers. And that's kind of always usually what I like to do. I always kind of like to try to bundle this up, inform my opinion based off a wider range of people, and then essentially also provide that feedback to the developers and stuff. Now, out of anything, like I don't have time, and I'm not going to do this today. I've got plenty of things I've got to play, but at the end of the day, like this does make me interested to see Albion Online. I know that game came out a while back, and I was thinking about picking it up back then. I just never did. And so maybe that's something where I'll try to put that onto my playlist later this year. But Final Fantasy XI is definitely going to take my priority as a sandbox MMO, hopefully here in the next couple of months, guys. Anyway, that's the question to you guys. Obviously, hopefully you enjoyed the video and the discussion, and at least my thoughts and insights into it. Looking forward to having your insights, and hopefully we'll continue this conversation in future videos. Thanks, guys. Hopefully you have a great day. Hopefully I'll see you in my next one. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh.